Welcome, everyone. My name is Lorhan Caproni. I'm BotCity co-founder and CEO, and joining me today is Gabriel.
Thanks, Lorhan. I'm Gabriel, CTO at BotCity. I'll be joining Lorhan throughout this session, focus on technical side of what we be covering today.
So thanks, Gabriel. Today, this is a warm-up session before RSA. So we're gonna talk about why your EDR is blind to Python. Actually, we're gonna talk about this new problem, how Python spread over the companies after AI adoption. So in the next 40 minutes, we're gonna go through this agenda. So first, we're gonna address the shadow AI reality and why Python is the new attack surface. After that, why your traditional controls fall short about this. Why is my EDR, XDR is not seeing that? Then we're going to introduce our answer to this problem, BotCity Sentinel. And finally, how can we move from this reality to a new one that you can build on Python with governance without blocking innovation? So for starters here, let's talk about this new shadow AI breach reality. Here are some stats that can make us think about this problem. First, by the end of 2025, IBM made this survey about the cost of data breach reports. Here are some stats about the survey. First, 20% of the organizations were breached by shadow AI. That's the number from the December 25. So this number is increasing now. And second, 63% have no AI governance policy. So this is a problem because when AI adoption went so fast that the companies create a policy about bring your own tool. So most of the companies, the users, they had their own license from AI assistants. So Gemini, Copilot, GPT, and Claude. And these tools now they have more than 1 billion users daily. So that's the new reality we are right now. And according to Gartner, 40% of organizations will face a shadow AI breach by 2030. And according to Gartner as well, 69% of the organization suspect employees using prohibited Gen AI. Probably you are suspicious about that as well. So that's what we are seeing. Users are using their own tools. So how does this connect with Python? Basically, Python is the lingua franca of AI. Since the beginning, we're talking about decades ago, AI was using Python. So right now, with this new reality that I have an assistant on my side, if I ask a simple thing, just like create a tracking for USPS for me, the answer that this assistant is going to give is a Python code. So let's think about how this happens daily in companies, because that's exactly what your EDR can see. Companies people are automating process. Now you came from a reality from 50 developers that they knew Python, now to thousands of people that they never built in Python before, but these tools are allowing them to do that. So for instance, on financial services, we see automations like this one. So FP&A analyst extracts GL data nightly via SAP interface. So we know that it's exporting report from SAP. It's quite difficult, sometimes quite slow. So we have Python scripts for that. Let's build a Python script. Let's extract this information. And now I have 15,000 records in my personal drive. This is one example that we see in financial services. When we shift to other industries, such as manufacturing, and then when we shift from ERPs like to Oracle, we see similar cases. Like this is an AP team that automates invoice entry with hard-coded Oracle credentials. So you have vendor bank details in the email attachment and lots of information about the invoice requests. So this is data getting out of your company. And you go to a different industry, like pharma. You have this about clinical data. So have teams like a data manager exports a trial patient data to clean and analyzing pandas. Pandas is a common library that you can use to process high volumes of data. It's like working with spreadsheets. 2.5 million rows of PII is a local drive right now. So maybe you are seeing this and thinking, okay, this is not happening within my company. But there are several ways that you can make this happen. Actually, Probably your business users, if you have Python blocked there in your company, are asking your LLMs how to bypass this. That's the irony here. So wrapping up this transformation, what we see is like AI transformed Python into the new Excel macro. As LLMs are generating Python, for instance, Python on tile index jumped from 22% adoption to 27% in months. This never happened before with any code language. So Python is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and wider adoption right now. And it's becoming the new shadow IT. So according to Gartner, 75% of employees will create technology outside of IT control. I don't know about you, but for us, it's not 2027. This was last Tuesday. So that's what's happening when you have these powerful tools in hands of users and you have no visibility. So if I ask you, how many Python scripts do you have in your organization? Some of you probably will have this answer because you can see on your EDR, like the executables files. But if I ask you, do you know what these scripts are actually doing? If they're touching your company data or they're moving files over there or making query to database? That's the answer that you don't have right now. So the risks associated with running Python unsupervised, they are getting in these categories. So what we're seeing typically, hard-coded credentials. This is classic, right? So sometimes AWS credentials or OpenAI API keys or anomalous activity outside of business hours. There are some scripts running during by night with high volumes of information. What is happening? But then you have more things about this. These scripts are making queries to database and sometimes using users' permission because the users have access to files within the company. And these scripts can read, manipulate, and exfiltrate these files as well. And on top of that, if you ask like Claude or GPT, they are most of the time recommending libraries that are outdated. So this means you have vulnerabilities and malicious packets opening the surface of content of potential attacks. And there are another dimension on that is like if a script gets lost if an employee leaves the company. Sometimes there are a lot of great scripts being built in the company, but the employee leaves and you lose it. So that's what's happening in your company right now. You have lots of people, hundreds of people or thousands of people using these tools to build in Python scripts. And there's no idea what these scripts are actually doing. So most of the companies where are facing that, their first reaction is about let's block Python. But this is a big problem because you are blocking innovation. So the problem is not about blocking Python, but is about to provide visibility about these scripts are doing. The visibility is the key here. So now I'm going to hand over the presentation for Gabriel, and Gabriel will show on the technical standpoint what is the difference about this visibility that we provide and what you have from EDRs right now. So up to you, Gabriel.
Thank you, Lorhan. Since the problem are on the workstations, we can address it in the endpoint perspective. When talking about endpoint protection solutions, in your company, you're probably going to find an EDR analyzing the behavior of applications, the DLP protecting your company's data, and the tool to manage your company's devices. Taking a closer look at the solutions, we can see the use cases. So your EDR is monitoring processes, memory, and file operations, detecting, blocking suspicious applications. Your DLP is preventing data loss through documents and media and through peripheral devices. And finally, you have a solution to manage your devices and guarantee that they are compliant with your company policies and procedures. But the problem is, we are talking about here about known applications, malwares, and applications that we know the suspicious behavior we want to detect. But now we have a new use case. We have a use case that a business user is creating their own applications on their own workstations. So they are manipulating company data they have access to. They are creating applications to automate workflows that affect other applications. The intention is good. They are innovating, generating value, but we know they are creating also security and operational risks. So the topic of creating application scripts with security is not new. We have been working with that for decades. So let's try to use the same approach we use for technical software development. So let's provide a GitHub for our business users. Let's provision a secure pipeline, a dedicated runtime environment. But here's the problem. GitHub requires technical knowledge to handle Git commands, to work with brands, pull requests, and so on. And the pipeline only validates the source code when it's submitted to the pipeline. Usually, the most part of the development happens locally. The business user is playing with the AI, generating code, playing with the ID. Every execution might bring risks to your company operation. And talking about providing a secure pipeline and a dedicated virtual environment, runtime execution environment, how can we scale this thing to provide this infrastructure to every employee in your company? So, what if we bring the core concepts of this technological stack to the endpoint? So, here we have why your ID can see this information about this new kind of application being developed directly in the endpoint by users playing with AI. And now we have a new agent, the BotCity Sentinel agent. This agent will detect, monitor, and version every Python in your company. It can perform vulnerability scanning on source codes and libraries. It can guarantee AI and LLM compliance, prevent data loss in the Python context, and so on. So how the BotCity Sentinel agent works? It's a lightweight process running in every employee machine. It detects native Python interpreters running on virtual environments, and even in Jupyter notebooks. With that, we can cover all use cases, from simple scripts to AI agents. Now, imagine this agent collecting data. Just a few examples here. It's collecting library import, LLM usage, inbound and outbound communication, file operations, database access, and so on. With this data, we can create analysis that notify your team about security and operational risks. So imagine that you have this agent running in every workstation in your company. Every Python execution is now monitored, and this data is sent to a platform that is fully deployed on-premise in your company, since it deals with sensitive information, credentials, and so on. With that platform, you can understand every single Python script running your company. What the scripts are doing, which endpoints they are associated with, and which risks, security and operational risks, they are creating. So here is the Sentinel platform. Let's start from the script model. So here I can see every Python script running the company. So in this period, we have 612 scripts. I can see the scripts, the last update, the workstation or endpoint, and the number of alerts associated with it. Talking about the alerts, let's go to the alerts screen, because alerts provide information about those risks. And these risks are separated in 5 categories. We have a typical Python activity, code vulnerability, suspicious traffic, library vulnerability, and sensitive data exposure. Let's go into sensitive data exposure. I'm gonna filter by the critical ones. Let's select an example. Here we have a leaked OpenAI service key in the source code. So here's the evidence. There's an API key hard-coded. This is the date when it was detected. It's Robert's endpoint. This is the script. This is the file path on the workstation. And we have also a recommendation. In this case, use environment variables or a secret vault. Let's explore another example in the library vulnerability. Let's select the critical ones. So here it's an interesting. The AIs were the models, the AI models you are using were trained weeks or even months ago. In the time the AI was trained, there were older versions of those libraries. So basically, the consequence is when users are playing with AI, they usually suggest outdated libraries. You are usually working with older versions. And in many cases, those older versions of libraries has vulnerabilities. So it's very common to find a lot of vulnerable libraries in code generated by AI. So here, let's take an example. This script on methods endpoint is using a vulnerable library. And here's the parserizable. And here's the recommendation. It needs to update this library to a newer version. So now with this model, you can have the big picture of the problem in your organization regarding all Python scripts. The next step is you need to define an action plan that might have training sessions with your team, task force to fix all those scripts, or even blocking some endpoints in your EDR, blocking the Python execution because the endpoint is bringing too much risk, and ask the user to fix those scripts before being authorized again to run Python. And to support you on this action plan, you have the endpoints model. Here you can see which endpoint is bringing more risks to the company. In this case, it's Emma's endpoint. Working just with Emma, you have the opportunity to fix, to remediate all those issues. And you can also work in department or team's perspective. Let's take an example, the facilities one. Here are the endpoints in the facilities department and all the risks associated with those endpoints. So how can we measure if the action plan is in fact delivering the expected results? Going to the dashboard, you have a view of indicators that measures the conformity level of your operation. Through an endpoint or a script being conformity, it can't trigger any critical or high issue in an alert. So basically, you need to monitor these indicators and working with the endpoint and script to improve your operation. So here we have the number of endpoints in the operation. In this case, this number. The conformity level is very low because we have a lot of endpoints with critical and high alerts. The same for the scripts. We have a view of the alerts triggered over time, a chart about the endpoints running Python, and a view of Python execution in this period. In this case, we are talking about a company in the beginning of their journey, just before implementing an action plan. Let's now switch the period of analysis to a more recent one after the action plan. So here we see a very different scenario because now the number of endpoints in conformity jumped to 65%, and the number of critical and high alerts has decreased to 23% and 22%, and the same for the scripts. It's just a few weeks of work. Of course, the security governance and architecture teams need to keep doing the plan, mitigate the risks in every endpoint and scripts to improve this value, targeting 100% in conformity. And moreover, you can also set here integrations to this platform. So you can send data from this platform to your observability platform or to your CM. You can set the policies of your company. These policies are used to set which kind of alert the platform must trigger. Here you can also have audit of your operation and settings to set this to our team to have access to those reports and indicators. So that was our demo. Let me hand back to Lorhan to talk about how to implement the same strategy in your company.
Okay, thanks, Gabriel. I think right now we got to the point that you saw how can we solve this visibility problem about the platform. So BotCity Sentinel can work, coexist with our solutions for endpoint monitoring, such as CrowdStrike or Sentinel-1, or we can send informations to your CM. So now you got you covered. After this kind of conversations, we see three types of companies and reactions. So first, we have the companies that are aware of the problem and they're moving fast. So this is what you hear. Like, I think I have this problem. It's massive, and I need visibility right now. There are industries that we are seeing that are growing crazily fast. And there's the second audience. They are aware and sizing the problem. I have this problem, but I don't know the scale. This is super common because we are not, AI spreads so fast and Python spreads so fast. Then when I hear from some managers and directors say, hey, I don't know if I have 500 scripts or 50,000. So, and there is the last one, on denial. Oh, don't worry, everything's blocked here. I'm sure don't have Shadow Python anywhere. That's ironic because if you block Python, probably your employees are asking your own LLMs how to bypass that. So if you feed yourself in one of these three different scenarios and profiles, what we are doing is we are selecting a few companies for a 30-day risk assessment. So we're going to show you the size of the problem. So because it's not a matter about if you have the problem, it's about the size and when. This is happening everywhere. So first part of this risk assessment and action plan is an implementation phase. So we're going to have to set up our implementation. As Gabriel said, the product runs on premise. So you need to provide the resources for us to install the Sentinel agent, make the installation through your MDM, and make the platform set up. So you start getting data from your endpoints. After we did the setup phase, it can be fast, over 5 days tops. That depends on your process on your side. We start the collection phase. So right now, Sentinel is collecting and intercepting every single Python execution in your company on the endpoints that you chose to be monitored. So now we can gather this data and consolidate these alerts and events. So you have a preview of the compliance level and a preview of the risks found. So the goal here is at the end of these 30 days, you have an overview of what's happening in your company. As Gabriel showed, like the number of endpoints that you have and the conformity of these endpoints, and the same about the scripts, and which kind of alerts and severity that you have in your company. So this is something that we use to provide you an action plan. So how can we improve that? Or what are the next steps? So this is a program that we are selecting a few companies. Companies can apply, not just before RSA, not during RSA, but after. And we are qualifying companies depending on how they fit themselves about this problem, about Python spread over the company. But the goal is a try and buy program. So you can work with us, and then after this action plan, you can decide how can you move forward and make this monitoring permanently or not. So if you want to go with us and try to understand it, you can apply using this QR code. This QR code will be valid after RSA as well, because our team is constantly evaluating companies in different industries and different use cases. So with that, you can have a picture of your reality and then take a decision. The problem is right now, it's really hard to understand if you have a surface of attack or data exfiltration. based on opinions, not real data. That's what we are offering. You need to have real data to take this decision. So let's finalize here. I want to thank you all. Thank you, Gabriel. Feel free to apply. If you have any questions, just let us know. Gabriel, thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, if you have any questions, please put in the comments. We and our team are happy to answer. And if you are seeing this before RSA, come join us at the booth S2445. Thank you.